What did you think of Nosferatu 2024? When I first heard that Robert Eggers was directing Nosferatu, I was immediately intrigued, as a huge fan of his previous work.
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, father.
Boom!
What's a timberman want with being a wiki?
Just looking to earn a living, just like any man. Starting new.
On the run.
I knew his vision would bring something unique and compelling to the story. Now that I've seen it, I can confidently say this must be one of the most awesome films of 2024. In fact, it could be the best Dracula adaptation I ever watched. Even though it's not technically a Dracula adaptation, Nosferatu is haunting, visually stunning and captivating, a masterful reimagining of a classic tale. I was surprised by how much Dracula was made into Nosferatu. Well, the film relocated the story to Germany and changed all the names in homage to the original Nosferatu. It followed the novel's plot almost beat for beat. Sure, the narrative was condensed and there were a few minor lore tweaks, but it even included elements often left out of other adaptations. One of the highlights for me was the betrayal of Jonathan Harker, or in this case Thomas. Finally we got an adaptation that truly did the character justice. Thomas was everything Jonathan Harker should be, a sweet, likable and naive young man who deeply loved his wife. This version completely outshines Keanu Reeves' betrayal and Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, yes.
Thomas felt like a fully realized character who earned our sympathy and support. Sure, it wasn't perfect, but considering how low the bar has been for Jonathan Harker adaptations, I happily take this one as a win. It's refreshing to see a version of the character that's both true to the source material and treated with respect by the story. Jonathan Harker's arc is often sidelined or rushed in adaptations, but not this time. And Nosferatu does an incredible job bringing his journey here as Thomas to life. You truly feel the claustrophobia, desperation and growing dread with his eerie and malevolent host. The atmosphere is perfectly unsettling, with the castle depicted as cold, empty medieval fortress that feels alive with menace. The film even includes moments straight from the novel, like Thomas breaking a mirror, attempting to climb the castle walls and eventually being rescued by nuns. These details made the story feel more complete and authentic than most other adaptations. For me, it wasn't perfect. I'm thrilled to see finally a well-rounded, respectful take on Jonathan's character, but while Thomas was a standout, Mina was notably absent. Instead, the Harker character is married to Lucy's character. Unfortunately, Lucy felt flat for me. She's portrayed as the typical Victorian girl, complete with a heavy dose of Madonna complex. She spends much of the film weeping, possessed, and experiencing fits, her symptoms of the vampire influence reimagined as epileptic demon possession rather than tuberculosis-style illness often associated with the novel. Much like Winona's Rider and Bram Stoker's Dracula, Lucy has a special connection to the vampire, serving as a focal point for his obsession.
I fear for him so. Professor. My dreams grow dark.
While Lily Rose's death performance was undeniably strong, I found the character insufferable, although that's more my personal taste than a criticism of the film, but I'm frankly tired of stories that revolve around the vampire and the girl. Still, this is Nosferatu, not Dracula, so I understand the creative choices. The film dedication to flesh out Thomas' story made it up for it. It's rare to see such care given to Jonathan's role, and for that alone, this adaptation stands out. One thing I appreciated about Nosferatu was its more original take on the Lucy Mina character, which also becomes somewhat of a cliche in vampire stories. Unlike the overdone Dracula misses his long-time lost wife angle,
Join me in eternal life.
seen in Bram Stoker's Dracula and other vampire films. This film kept Count Orlok as a terrifying monster. There is no attempt to make him complex or to invoke sympathy.
What manner of ritual?
Speak not of it again!
And I give the filmmakers a lot of credit for sticking to that. That said, I'm really tired of seeing the female lead stuck in the fragile and distressed Lucy role, even a genre that thrives on exaggerated tropes. This one feels outdated and uninspired. Mina, on the other hand, remains criminally overlooked. She's one of the strongest characters in the original novel. smart, brave, resourceful, and instrumental in Dracula's downfall, thanks to her sharp mind. Modern audiences would love a faithful adaptation of Mina. Imagine a badass hunting vampire husband and wife duo taking down the Count. I loved almost everything else about the film. The aesthetic was absolutely stunning, pure Gothic glory in my opinion. Surpassed even Bram Stoker's Dracula. The atmosphere was eerie, immersive, a perfect match for the dark tale it told.
How I look forward to retiring to your city of a modern mind.
Nosferatu delivered an outstanding experience, breathing fresh life into a story that has been retold countless times. It's not perfect, but it's a standout adaptation that I highly recommend. Robert Eggers' distinctive style was a perfect match for Nosferatu. His approach to horror-styled yet emotionally grounded enhanced the story's sense of dread without ever feeling campy.
The midnight hour has passed.
This sequence, there's never really any sure footing. We're playing with a lot of confusion, you know, and we'll set up something pretty ordinary, a medium shot, but we're gonna still pull the carpet from under you, and it's all carefully thought out, you know, sort of set up expectations and then throw you off. Being disoriented and having the camera lead you and you're never really sure what you're gonna look at next was kind of important.
It would have been easy for the film to veer into something more theatrical or quirky. Think Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow.
Today, the Western Woods is a haunted place where brave men will not venture.
We have murders in New York without benefit of ghouls and goblins.
But Eggers maintained an unrelenting edge of horror throughout the film. He also struck that delicate balance between horror and sexuality that any good vampire story demands. Something that every adaptation pulls off. What I found especially striking was how the film emphasized vampires as a personification of a disease, a theme that hit harder in the post-COVID world, while Bram Stoker's Dracula explores vampires throughout the lens of both sexuality and disease. Many modern adaptations focus on one and ignore the other. Eggers managed to tackle both effectively, which is no small feat. A big part of that success comes from Eggers' commitment to folklore. A signature of his work, the film incorporated elements of vampire mythology that are often left out, like drinking blood from the chest instead of the neck. Vampires are sources of nightmares and sleep paralysis, and historical methods of dealing with them. Orlok felt like an embodiment of the original Dracula, a godlike, untouchable force of destruction that leaves death and despair in his wake.
Orlok's coffin is quite spectacular. It's based on lots of research of mainly Polish coffins. The real ones like have skulls on the side of them, you know, and like how sick is that?
Bill Skarsgård was phenomenal as Count Orlok.
It's the scariest performance of my career. I've never been more scared in playing a character.
Eat. Take heed what you do.
He was completely transformed, both visually and vocally. His performance captured the sheer otherworldly menace of the character. Orlok wasn't just a monster, he was an existential threat, a force so overwhelming it seemed impossible to defeat.
You are my affliction.
It was fresh and genuine, terrifying to take on vampires, and I was thoroughly impressed. And then there was Willem Dafoe's Van Helsing-like character. Eggers reimagined the character as a half-crazy occultist, living in an apartment overflowing with mystical trinkets, stack of books, and so many cats. There were absolutely no narrative reason for him to be there, but I loved it. And none of them died was also a bonus. Between the cult references and the gratuitous cats, this film felt like it was a tailor-made for fans of Gothic horror with a touch of weird. Nosferatu wasn't just visually stunning, it was a masterpiece. It was a thoughtful, fresh take on vampire mythology, with enough depth in the tale to keep me thinking about it for a long time.
Here, encountering the undead plague carrier.